Ah, how about that? A scarlet moon. Fitting. And ominous. You're watching on, Krapika. It's back out in that same place. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, he's gonna ask about his clan. Love his earring. But they've killed so many though, right? Kuruta. Wow. Great shot. Oh wow, he does not remember. They've killed so many that even something as unique as Scarlet Eyes is not ringing a bell. I don't know about the rest, but I think he's gonna say nothing. Whoa. There's been many in the past, eh? Higher ground, okay. That packs a punch. Look at it. Oh. I thought he's about to take a guess at. Did you just break his arm? Right. How? I mean, yeah, I was gonna say it was his left arm, so he should still be able to continue. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. Okay, something interesting going on here. Ah, okay. I believe it. That he wasn't going all out. Whoa. I'm a little bit surprised at the moment, folks. There's a lot to unpack here. Love the framing there. He packs a punch. He's got a game plan. Krapika came in hot. Broly over here. Oh. Oh. Oh, in? Because you're not going to use Zetsu, right? Oh. How's he blocking this? Oh. Yeah, okay. Not this time. Big bang. Yeah, that arm's mangled. It's gone. Ugh. He just keeps taking these jabs, trying to get him agitated, you know? Oh. No. Oh my god. Master stroke. So he used it in the middle of the battle at some point. Oh. Element of surprise, there it is. Precisely. Oh, yes. But do you not feel it though, even if they are invisible? Wow. Yeah, that's... Okay, there is something else going on here. Okay, bit of a lesson again. And then there's a diminishing... Oh. Oh. Do you remember now? Oh. Ooh, his demeanor shifted there as well. Now he remembers. This is it. This is the ultimate test right here. Condition and condition, right? The condition to fortify those chains, the chain drill. Oh, great shot. It's quite the... Yeah. Oh. He is a specialist, after all. Kind of. Oh my god. Emperor time. Oh my god, that is devastating. Almost OP, right? Oh, he's sweating. My god. Kurapika the specialist. It kind of adds up, doesn't it? That got him. There you go. This is how he... Self-imposed stipulations and all that. Go on, tell him. Oh. Ooh, look at this, he's giving off aura. And he picked up on it. And now they've found out that he's a specialist, right? In that state. And they kind of set that up that he... That's insane. Oh. Beautiful. Oh, he's gonna heal himself. Healing thumb. My god. Yeah. This is insane. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Because he told them to. Prefer to fight alone, yeah? Right. And he's essentially the strongest one they have, right? Him, Franklin. Zetsu and In. Bit of a difference, right? Yeah. He's got quite a bit of that as well, though, but let's see. But again, looks can be deceiving. I think he's beginning to understand. Beautiful stuff, though. Oh, he's enhancing all right. Oh, he made him bleed. Yeah. Oh my god, the swagger. Hold on now. That's not happening. No chance. No chance. Oh. Yeah. Oh my god. Ruthless Kurapika. He's not screaming though. Okay, Uvo. He'll never give them up. No chance. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's disgusted. Wow. Yeah, it truly is the last chance now. Nah, you could just tell he's not giving up anything. No chance. God damn. Yeah, is there a cost? Right? Double-edged sword and all that. He did it. Man, wow, that scene made me tear up a bit. It's kind of hit me hard. Wow. Oh, look at him. Look at him. Face down. Chained to hell and all of that, right? Oh. Chills. Wow. Wow. But? Yeah, I mean, this conjurer is special. Shalnark, yeah, he... Oh. Okay, Kurapika, you've caught his attention. Chrono. Terminate the chain user. Ah. Okay, yes. I mean, yeah, let's try and attempt to tackle this behemoth of an episode, because there is so much to unpack here, right? But before I go any further, I simply have to compliment this episode on its concise nature, on its delivery, right? It's a showcase. It's a showpiece episode for the anime. You know, this anime has given me some incredible episodes up until this point, some incredible moments, jaw droppers, moments that have left me baffled, moments that have left me teary-eyed, really quite sad, emotional, all of that. But here I am again claiming yet another episode to be one of the best of the series so far, and I think this is clearly a contender for that. You know, I can just tell right now that this is one of those episodes that a lot of Hunter x Hunter fans really anticipate, right? And just probably hold in high regard. And listen, I think this type of episode, and you know, I've just experienced it, it feels like this kind of goes beyond Hunter x Hunter. This could be essentially the type of episode that is just really praised and, you know, kind of looked at in high regard as far as anime episodes go. You know, as far as a fight goes as well, right? In anime altogether. This is just incredible stuff. And, you know, kind of going back to my comment about complimenting it, yes, it's concise. It's a one episode fight, and it packs the same impact that you essentially get from a multiple episode fight, right? And again, you know, the danger of that is that it can feel like it's dragging on. Again, you know, I consider Dragon Ball Z to be a bit of an outlier, right? Again, it's subjective because, again, you know, I grew up on Dragon Ball Z, so there's a special place in my heart for Dragon Ball Z. But here, in yet another showpiece episode for the anime, you have something just so incredibly impactful. And another really impressive aspect of this episode is the fact that it still manages to slip in some really, useful and crucial exposition, really quite masterfully, actually. Right? I just love the pacing of this episode. It legitimately did not feel like it happened a little too soon or that it ended a little too soon. It had just the right amount of impact, right? The one episode fight. This kind of, this almost feels like one of the gold standards even at this point, as far as, battle shonen goes. Again, I'm not claiming this to be battle shonen, but maybe the battle elements of a shonen, perhaps, an important fight, an impactful fight. Now, that's not to say that, no other fight should ever be more than an episode. I most definitely expect, future fights in this anime to be more than one episode, right? Because they might need to be. They simply might need to be. But in this really specific case, Uvogin, the late Uvogin against Kurapika, punish Kurapika. My God, that term that I've used for Kurapika a few times in passing, that is just so applicable in this episode. By the end of this episode specifically, I see punished Kurapika. Even in the middle of the fight, there's moments that he completely just hates this. He's not getting anything out of this. He's not getting any gratification out of it. He simply does not enjoy this one bit. He hates that he's doing this, but yet he must walk this path nonetheless. But, before I dive into the episode and try to analyze it and, break it down and tackle it as a whole from a production standpoint, it's just incredible. Absolutely incredible, right? If you're looking at the animation, the sound design, the voice acting, my God, the voice acting is just phenomenal. Kurapika specifically in this episode is just really quite engaging, right? You really kind of go on a journey, an emotional and psychological journey, with Kurapika, and the voice acting really, really plays a major part in all of that. It is a crucial component of that, I believe. Again, a lot of these things can be subjective. Again, at that one moment, I did get a little bit, I don't know if emotional is the right term to use for that, right? You don't always tear up just because you're emotional, but just as a whole, building up to that moment, and then, the moment as Uvo dies, and then, that really, really distinct approach to that moment as all of the sound cuts out, right? And even the actual color design, the art direction takes a bit of a turn in that moment. Everything about that conclusion just kind of hit me. It actually hit me like a truck all of a sudden. Hell, there's even a bit of sadness on my end, at least, for Uvo, right? I know. Listen, I'm not sure how others react to this, and I'm not even speaking about reaction content. Just you guys, people, everyone. How you all react to this, how other, fellow fans of Hunter x Hunter react to this moment. I'm sure some cheered. I'm sure some are horrified for Kurapika, right? I don't know, man. I felt sadness for Kurapika. I felt sadness for Uvogin. So yeah, it's a mix of things. But I think as a whole, maybe ultimately, the major component of this is actually getting to see Kurapika cross that line, right? It hits you. It hit me really hard all of a sudden. But yeah, going back to the production side of things, yes, it's clear that this episode is given a lot of care and a lot of focus, right? It's one of those special episodes, and you see it. You almost immediately see it and clock it in the animation itself. There's certainly a lot of Sakuga moments, some brilliant Sakuga on display. Like I said, it's a showcase. It truly is. The art direction and the actual, detail in the character designs is really quite noticeable as well, right? And at times, even the art style kind of took a bit of a shift. There's a few shots of Kurapika, a few shots of Uvo, that felt a little bit different. And of course, let's not forget the incredible score accompanying these scenes and elevating these scenes. There's that moment right at the end there, and oh my God, I just got chills just thinking back to that moment. It's as you see the dead Uvo, right? You see his eyes as he's laying face down, essentially, in that newly dug up ditch, in that newly dug up grave. The moment that theme kicks in, and you've got the dead Uvo and his eyes just just piercing through the screen, right? My God, that is just, oh, it's insane, isn't it insane? Right? It might feel like a common thing to many of us at this point, but it's just insane if you really truly think about it, that it can make you have a physical reaction. Again, maybe I should just speak for myself, but my God, that hit me like a truck. It did. Covered in goosebumps. And again, that is essentially mainly because of that incredible piece of music. And it's essentially one of the themes of the Phantom Troop, because at this point I've heard multiple themes, I suppose, or multiple pieces of music that are associated with the Phantom Troop. And it's an incredible collection, isn't it? See, the thing is, I'm really, really incredibly excited to kind of just dive into the soundtrack, the OST. But the thing is, for a lot of these shows that I cover, I have to be a little bit careful. I can't really go right in to Spotify or YouTube and look them up, because sometimes they might have spoilers in the title. But again, I've noticed that for anime specifically, it's not that much of a concern, given the naming schemes of them. But yeah, it's just risky. You can't really search up, Hunter x Hunter soundtrack, right? Because if you do that on YouTube, it's essentially probably almost immediately going to spoil you, right? But yeah, as many of you know by now, because you've been here for a few years at this point, and I love that. Thank you for that. Of course, it's been fantastic to have many of the long-term subscribers stick around. But yeah, many of you know at this point that I put a lot of value into the score, in the original score. I think it plays a massive part. I think it's just as important as any other element of a production. I think it's one of the key components in making scenes, incredible scenes, memorable scenes, iconic moments that haunt you, moments that you think about, right? Because you associate that piece of music with specific moments. And at this point in the anime, I have a handful of those moments, right? I think of those moments all the time, and I've got a few more of those by the end of this episode. So yeah, it certainly delivered and then some from a production standpoint. It did. And yeah, it's right up there. It's right up there as one of the best episodes of the series at this point. And the thing is, like I said, many of you have been around for a few years, and you know that I'm not the biggest fan of battles or fights, right? I remember that, at times, I guess a lot of people, or some people at least, used to be, I don't know, annoyed maybe, or maybe annoyed's not the right term. Maybe they didn't like that I didn't really get that much into the fights of Shingeki, or perhaps my reactions to certain fights might not have been as hype as, I don't know, other reaction content that people might have come across. But also, that being said, I found a lot of the encounters or battles or fights in Shingeki really quite engaging as well, right, at certain moments. But Full Metal Alchemist, that was one of the more recent anime that I checked out on the channel. That really had a lot of really engaging battles or fight sequences, right? I think Hunter x Hunter kind of continues that trend, for me at least. And like I said in the last episode's discussion, the fight itself, right, the back and forth, the ebb and flow, that is going to be the exciting bit, rather than perhaps the outcome of it, right? And it certainly was. And of course, accompanied by some fantastic animation, top-notch Sakuga, all of that, sound design, all of that, fantastic. But I think one of the main reasons I'm finding the fights in Hunter x Hunter, and this one specifically, this one actually might be the best one yet, right? It is essentially a showpiece, as far as fights go in this anime, so far at least, right? There's a long series ahead, but this feels like essentially the gold standard at this point. I've seen some incredible moments, of course. Hisoka and Gon at Heaven's Arena comes to mind as well, right? It's a phenomenal battle sequence, right? Full of beautiful Sakuga. But this one, I think this is at this point maybe the gold standard. But I think one of the main reasons the fights in this anime have been engaging, and this fight specifically has been so engaging, is because of the Nen element. The Nen plays a crucial role, right? It's the focal point of these fights. Yes, at times, brute strength, your innate ability right, kind of comes into play as, Uvo kind of gets to find out, right, that he has to, at this point, because of the forced Zetsu, he has to tap into his own strength. But the back and forth, the strategic element of it, right, the methodical element of it from Kurapika's side as well, of course. But also, let's not forget Uvo, right? For the beginning stages of this fight, you see that he is intelligent. He is, and they've set that up, right? He certainly has that one side to him that, he can be overconfident. And I think that essentially did play a part in his downfall in this episode, I think. It played some part, I think. It is something that his friends, his comrades, or at least Sharnlark, was a little bit concerned about. And, ultimately, he was right to be concerned, right? Sharnlark, again, he continues to be really quite likable. He cares quite a bit about his friends. He considers them friends. Hell, at the end there, you see all of them are showing concern for Uvo, because you see all of a sudden everything just shifted to Uvo, and Uvo potentially being alive and coming back safely. And hell, you see that Crollo straight up just established that, okay, if he's not back by dawn, yeah, they're about to shift gears, right? A change of plans, right? So by the end of this episode, the chief, the head honcho, Crollo, has taken an interest in the chain user, right? Though, they already set that up that, he's beginning to take an interest in the chain user, but now it's truly at that point. So much so that he is ready to deviate, ready to, shift all the plans to something else. And honestly, I don't think it's as simple as the narrator is implying here, right? I don't think it's as simple as, now Crollo's all about just terminating, I believe that's the term he used, right? Terminating the chain user. I don't think it's that simple. I think, this man, the chief, Crollo, I really truly feel that he wants to learn more about Kurapika, this chain user, right? That he wants to understand and learn about these abilities of his, right? Especially if it's confirmed to them that Uvo is gone. And I think essentially Crollo and the rest of the Phantom Troop members have enough of an understanding of Uvo and his abilities that if he's not back by dawn, they're just going to assume that, the unthinkable happened, right? Maybe not the unthinkable, because again, Sharnlark showed a bit of concern. He did, right? And surely I think Crollo doesn't think it's the unthinkable. So maybe I should just take that term back altogether. But if that happened, if he hasn't returned, then they're just going to assume that, he got bested. He's done, right? So if that's the case, first of all, you have a person out there that was able to take out a Phantom Troop member. That in itself also poses a lot of interesting, ideas and situations, perhaps, maybe a few of them, even if they are sad, they might be thinking, okay, this person just took out one of us, took out one of the spiders, right? Maybe he should be on our side. Maybe he should be the new number 11 of the Phantom Troop, right? I could see maybe one or two of them maybe thinking along those lines, right? Maybe someone like Nobunaga could think of it, or think of this situation in that light, because they already showed us that he's not one for being tribal. He's not one for being dismissive, right? And this is in his initial appearance, right? As he is speaking of Hisoka, and he's really quite impressed by Hisoka's abilities, right? He's not sugarcoating anything. He's not trying to downplay anything. You see Franklin and Phaeton almost immediately, kind of shut that talk down, don't they? Franklin felt that they're giving Hisoka a bit too much credit. But no, Nobunaga was really quite real about the situation. But of course, us audience knows there's no chance in hell Kurapika could ever become a member of the Phantom Troop. But it's still interesting to kind of speculate about how some of the members of the Phantom Troop might look at the situation, right? Speaking of the Phantom Troop members, right at the end there, you see that cheeky smile as he looks over, right? Because now Hisoka is also kind of getting an understanding for the situation, because he understands that Kurapika might have done the thing, that he might have actually pulled it off. And that is something that probably excites him. But one of the most fascinating things that comes out of this episode, or intriguing bit of setup that essentially is possible by the end of this episode, is the potential fallout on both ends, Kurapika and the Phantom Troop. I just kind of touched up on it on the troop side, but yeah, I am really legitimately quite interested in seeing how, different members are going to react to this, right? How exactly is Chrollo going to react to this? My read on the guy at this point is that he's really, really quite calm and composed, right? That's a really simple read. That's a really, clear read on the guy. He is. I feel like he's someone who doesn't tend to, or someone who feels like, he really feels like someone who's not going to all of a sudden overreact, right? Even now, he's really quite, calm about kind of giving his take on the situation. Yeah, he's got a solid read on the situation. And the thing is, it's the same conclusion that Uvo kind of comes to, right? That, given his, use of those chains, he's either a manipulator or a conjurer, right? And yeah, Chrollo comes to the same conclusion, right? Because, it's pretty clear that, of course, if the chains are the focal point, the key component of this, he must be manipulating these physical chains. But, if that's not the case, then of course he's a conjurer who is conjuring up these chains, right? But again, in this episode, it becomes clear that Kurapika is tapping into everything. He is enhancing throughout this episode, right? And that's a thing that kind of keeps you on the back foot, kind of keeps the audience on the ropes. At one point I was kind of like, okay, hold on, yeah, something really strange is going on here, because he is beginning to showcase certain abilities that are not really in line with everything that's been set up for Kurapika up until this point, right? And that kind of has Uvo really a little bit confused as well, right? Because he's like, on one end thinking, okay, hold on, he could be one or the other, right? Manipulator or conjurer. But the way he's fighting at the moment, it makes Uvo think, okay, yeah, he's most likely an enhancer. It's Kurapika's trump card, isn't it? It's his wild card, right? And yeah, us audience knew about the setup, right? That indeed, he is trying to, showcase or show himself off as a manipulator, essentially by having the chains out at all times, but ultimately being a conjurer, right? That's the jump he gets on them, or at least that's the jump he gets on Uvo, right? That's the surprise, that's the twist of all of this. And because again, he can conjure those chains, he is able to use in, right, and make them invisible, right? And I asked the question, even if they are invisible, should he not be able to feel them? So I think, realistically speaking, if he's not actually feeling the chains slowly kind of ensnaring him, and I love that as well, the invisible nature of these chains that are ensnaring Uvo, kind of like a spider's web. How about that, eh? Of course, that's not a coincidence. That's by design, isn't it? Oh God, I love it. So I suppose, they're actually physically invisible as well. I kind of almost assumed immediately that, okay, they actually might still be present to the physical touch, but, they're just kind of invisible to the eye. But I suppose that's not the case, because Uvo did not feel them at all until, of course, one of those standout moments, one of those incredible moments of the episode happens, right? As he has higher ground and he lets them know, I too can use in, right? And of course, one of those iconic pieces of music kicks in, that track I love so much. And then of course, that aspect of it, his abilities, again, this trump card that he does have, right? Presenting himself as a manipulator, but actually being a conjurer, but then at the end of the day, also being a specialist. Again, more on that later, because god damn, that is just, whew, yeah, that's a lot to unpack there. But that is another reason that he wants to be one-on-one, right? I mean, beyond the practical and logical and realistic reason of him, legitimately actually needing to be one-on-one, because otherwise, I'm not, like I said a few episodes ago, because he simply cannot try to go up against multiple members of the Phantom Troop. Even some of the insane new abilities I learned about in this episode, right? Emperor Time, all of that, I think even so, he still could not take on two at a time. It's just not practical. It's not realistic. It's suicidal, essentially. And, Kurapika is intelligent. He knows. He is methodical. He had a game plan before coming into this. And that's another thing that separates the two, right? Uvo, again, to him, this is just another target, someone that he essentially thinks is yet another person that's come for vengeance, right? And he loves to put them down. He loves to crush any notions of revenge, right? Because again, he's clearly had a few of them come at him, or the Phantom Troop as a whole has had a few surviving members, or someone's son, someone's brother, anyone, right? It could apply to anyone. Come at the Phantom Troop for the same reason, because they've been wronged. So he's put an end to many of these oncomers, right? But not this time. Not this time. This is a different one. But yeah, at the end of the day, as Kurapika stated, Uvo was the perfect first fight, the perfect first target, the perfect test for all of this, for his abilities, for Emperor Time, for Chain Jail, all of it. And it's not that much of a surprise either, right? I speculated that indeed Uvo might be the perfect first opponent for him, the perfect first target, right? Because he gets to observe his abilities as he is fighting the shadow beasts, right? He learns that Uvo himself also likes to go one-on-one, and that plays perfectly into Kurapika's stance, his plan, right? And this idea of going one-on-one, it's also about keeping his abilities secret from any other members of the Phantom Troop, because he needs to maintain that element of surprise, right, about his abilities. He simply does. That's how he's going to be effective in any future Phantom Troop fights. But again, it's not a given that any future encounters are going to be one-on-one, right? That's ideal, but just because it's ideal doesn't mean that he's always going to be able to set that up. This just happened to be the perfect storm, the perfect first fight, the perfect first test out in the open. So of course, he didn't need any spectators. He didn't need an audience watching on for this, right? But then let's kind of focus on the last moments. Him digging the grave and him giving Uvo a burial. Listen, maybe a part of it could be because he feels that, okay, even someone like Uvo, someone who's wronged him in that manner, even he maybe deserves a burial. But listen, I think that's just maybe a part of it. Sure, maybe I might be overthinking it a bit, but I think there's a few things at play here. I mean, first of all, yes, there is a possibility here that indeed, he feels that, okay, maybe he deserves that much. Maybe, maybe I should give him a burial, right? I think that's just a little part of it, to be honest. I think it's more to do with the fact that he doesn't want them to find Uvo's body, right? Because, there could be a possibility, there always could be a possibility that they could extract some information out of Uvo, right? Even if he is dead at this point. Right? And that begs the question. That does beg the question. How exactly does Nen function after death? Right? Is there any residual aura? Any residual Nen? Or does it almost immediately dissipate or cease to exist the moment a person's life force is taken out? Right? The moment a person's life force ceases to exist. Because again, it's so intrinsic. Nen is so intrinsic to a person's life force, right? The link there. So yeah, something to think about. Listen, at this point, there's another specialist out there, one that could be the most incredible of them all up until this point. And I'm speaking of Chrollo, right? He is a specialist, and I've yet to see Chrollo kind of step into the limelight, but I think this is it. I think at this point he is about to step into the limelight, and I think Kurapika is going to get to meet him soon enough, right? Because I think now he's truly on Chrollo's radar. Chrollo has taken definitive interest in this chain user, someone who essentially just took out one of his members, one of his Phantom Troop members, one of the spiders. So of course he's going to be fascinated by that. Of course, he's going to want to learn more about him. So see, us, the audience, at this point knows that, okay, this dude could be capable of anything, really, right? Anything. I have no idea at this point. So yeah, Kurapika, I think, is burying him because he does not want the rest of the Phantom Troop to come across his body, just in case they are able to extract something out of it. Just in case they are able to, analyze and deduct the method of his death, even. And I think another element of that is him just simply not wanting them to find the body of their comrade, of their friend, essentially, right? That, it's personal. It's certainly personal as well for Kurapika, even though, it's again, it's not really as clear cut as him just, being on this path and just enjoying it. No. It's not the case at all. But he's on the path nonetheless, reluctantly even. Justice or vengeance for his fallen clan almost dictates it, right? He's kind of bound by that, isn't he? So yeah, it's again, it's a term that they use in the episode itself. It's a double-edged sword. A lot of things for Kurapika are a double-edged sword, right? And speaking of that term, this Emperor Time ability, my God, it is really quite incredible, but also really quite OP. But I think the distinction here is that it's really OP against Phantom Troop members specifically, right? But that being said, I think the only one they've specified as being exclusive to the Phantom Troop or use on the Phantom Troop is the Chain Jail. Again, the condition that he's kind of put on that ability is that, yeah, he'll die. He'll forfeit his life if he uses that against anyone but the Phantom Troop, right? And for that reason, it fortifies it into this unbreakable jail, essentially, right? That even the strongest member of the Phantom Troop, apparently the strongest member of the Phantom Troop, cannot break out of, right? Even through his raw strength, minus Nen or any of those abilities. So as of this point, Kurapika is able to gather a lot of information. He has so much more information now that he can kind of, use and kind of mold as he tries to go against the next one or tries to find the next opponent, that is, next Phantom Troop member. But, I think he has to be careful about something here. A lot of his statements here are kind of definitive, right? He's looking at how things have played out against Uvo and almost immediately just kind of considering that as, okay, if the strongest could not break out of these chains, I can do the same to any other member. Granted that I have them chain jailed first, right? But again, I don't think it's as simple as that, right? You've got so many of these really unique members and their abilities. And then of course you've got the leader himself, Kurodo, whose abilities might be even more intense, even more insane than Kurapika's at this point, right? Listen, as you saw, my first thought on the matter is that yes, these are incredible abilities, but almost immediately I also thought that, okay, it's a bit OP. It is, right? But the thing is, there's a cost. Surely there's a cost to tapping into this Emperor Time, right? Again, one of the conditions or one of the, requirements is that, it only kicks in. Emperor Time only kicks in. Him becoming a specialist only kicks in anytime he is in that state, right? The Scarlet Eyes. So of course, some of these new abilities that are showcased appear to be only usable in that state as a specialist. And allow me to put a pin in that for now. I know it's, kind of abrupt as I am in the middle of that discussion point. But let me kind of, finish my thoughts on Uvo's last moments, right? His death. Again, kind of brought on ultimately through one of those abilities, right? The Judgment Chain, right? It's the pinky finger. And the thing is, I've seen the chain itself already, right? I've seen that, the visual, essentially. It was the one that's wrapped around Kurapika's own heart, right? As he is specifying and kind of, talking about his chain jail in that car scene a few episodes ago. I believe that's the same thing, right? The Judgment Chain around his own heart, or at least a visual depiction of it that is really quite similar. But yeah, as far as Uvo's final moments, there's something really interesting that happens here. It's almost as if a switch goes off, right? The moment he truly understands that, okay, this is it. He has me. He has me at his mercy. And he's asking me these questions now about my, friends, my comrades, my family, essentially. You see that immediately it's a complete shift in his demeanor, right? He almost kind of shuts down. And, all of that, bravado, all of that, smack talk, that shit talking that he does earlier in the fight, it's gone. It dissipates, right? He accepted his death in that moment. He understood that, okay, there's no coming out of this situation. He tried, he gave it his best shot, but his own innate strength, his raw potential, his raw power was not able to break him out of those chains. And he knew it's it. That's it. That's a wrap. And after that point, that's it, right? He's just quiet and he just tells him, kill me. A few times he tells him, kill me, right? And again, his demeanor is completely different, right? So I felt that his death, it's really quite a dignified death, from his perspective, right? He doesn't beg, he doesn't taunt, he doesn't feel the need to grandstand in his final moments and tell Kurapika, oh, they'll come for you, they'll hunt you down, they'll kill you. No, none of that. I felt that it was really quite dignified. I truly did. I felt that he took it like a champ. I felt that there's honor in his approach, in his final moments. Right? He gave Kurapika nothing. He did not humor Kurapika. He did not react to Kurapika. And of course, that frustrated Kurapika a bit, and he launches the final chance essentially through the judgment chain, right? Again, that didn't do anything either. He did not sell out his fellow troop members. And I think all of that comes down to loyalty, immense loyalty towards them, right? And I think that's probably going to be the case for most of the other Phantom Troop members as well. But yeah, ultimately, Uvo does not meet the conditions that Kurapika has set, and his judgment chain kicks in, right? Again, in one of the most, incredible scenes of the anime so far. But yeah, the immediate aftermath. You see that at the moment those scarlet eyes dissipate, the moment he comes out of that state, he immediately staggers. Right, it's quite a distinction. It's really quite, really quite jarring, isn't it, for him to come out of that state? You see, he staggers. He looks like he's drained. There's that really painful, almost sad and haunting look on his face as he kind of looks back. Right, there's nothing there. He got nothing out of it. It felt so hollow. But the first thing he said after coming out of that state, I spent too much time in that state. So I think that right there is something to latch onto, right? I think it is giving us breadcrumbs, and I think it's given us a few of them actually throughout the fight in terms of the potential price to be paid, the cost to be paid. Listen, yes, it might feel OP, and it does. To be honest, it does feel OP, though again, specifically against Phantom Troop members, there's got to be a cost. I've seen enough of this anime at this point to know that, there's a cost. There's got to be a cost. And for something like that, there's got to be a significant cost, right? And it's kind of hinting at it at this point, right? He's claiming almost immediately that, he spent too much time in that state. So, immediately you can kind of infer that, okay, staying in that state for too long is going to have an impact, right? To me, it felt like, him kind of looking drained and just so, defeated even. I think that has to do with the fact that it does take a psychological toll, a physical toll. It's got to be taking something of that ilk. But in terms of the breadcrumbs, throughout the fight, you see that he's in a rush. Kurapika is in a rush, right? He wants to see the best of Uvo almost immediately, right? He's imploring him to, okay, give me your best shot. Is that your best shot? Throughout the fight, he's egging him on. Right? He's trying to agitate him. He's trying to get Uvo to essentially give him his best shot. At one point, Kurapika said, "You're wasting my time." Right? So there's a few things there to latch onto. So if I was to take an educated guess at this point, I'd say that, it's got to be something, the cost, the price that has to be paid here, double-edged sword and all of that. I think it's probably something to do with some sort of internal clock, right? In the sense that maybe he only has a limited amount of times that he can use Emperor Time. Maybe the exact amount of uses as the amount of spiders as the Phantom Troop members, right? Maybe that could be a possibility. But then again, you kind of have to go back to that idea of him kind of rushing Uvo, right? Trying to get the best out of Uvo immediately, right? Or as soon as possible. So maybe there's some kind of a time limit, perhaps, in each use. I think one thing that is kind of clear is that indeed it is taking a physical and psychological toll. It is. I think that much is clear by the time he staggers out of that state. And the most telling thing about this is that, after he kind of claims that he spent too much time in that state, the first thing he does is call up Melody. He calls up Melody, right? He didn't have to call her up immediately, but he does. He does. And I feel like at this point, like I've speculated, she is essentially really good for him, right? And he understands this now, for sure. He knows this. He just needed to hear her voice at that point. To me, it's beginning to feel like she's actually his tether to, sanity, to just a base level, that she is essentially his rock or his anchor, right? To really kind of bring him back down. But like I said earlier, you see almost immediately that it does nothing for Kropika. Killing Uvo, eliminating Uvo, one of the spiders. It actually did nothing for him. And, I'm sure that this is something he's contemplated a lot, something he's thought about a lot. Am I truly going to find peace? Am I truly going to feel that I'm, dishing out justice? Is it actually going to do something for me? And I think he must have thought about that quite a bit, right? I mean, he must have thought about this specific moment quite a bit because, like I said, he finally crossed that line. Now he has become a killer as well, almost reluctantly, right? It's something he doesn't want to do. He truly doesn't really feel like engaging in this, right? At one point, there's a really impactful moment, poignant moment as he is dishing out that fury and he's becoming, drenched in scarlet, bloodstained as the fight plays out. And he tells Uvo, how could you not feel anything and think anything after, going through something like this, right? He's disgusted. At that point, he's disgusted with himself. He feels disgusted or disgusting that he is kind of, partaking in this. I believe he said it makes him sick, right? The sensation left on my hand, something about sending his senses into disarray, right? The grating sound of each strike, it's not something he takes any pleasure in, not at all, and this is his firsthand experience at that, right? This is a troop member that he's dishing this out on, yet he's not enjoying it. He cannot enjoy it, right? It's a disgusting feeling for him because beyond just being disgusted in that moment, he's now also thinking about someone like Uvo who's claiming to feel nothing at all, right? It's almost that moment from Street Fighter, from the 94 live action film, right? Bison and Chun-Li, right? For him, it was just another day. But for Chun-Li, it was the most important day of her life. Yes, it's kind of almost presented as a joke. It is a joke, essentially, but it's really quite poignant, isn't it? And it's applicable to a lot of these types of situations. For Uvo, it was nothing. It was just another, target. And he did not even remember the eyes until he actually had a visual indicator. But yeah, imagine being Kropika at that moment. And understanding that the people that actually massacred, or at least this one that played a part in massacring your clan so ruthlessly, and they gave us a look at it as well. It's this incredible shot. It's a devastating shot, but incredible nonetheless, of Kropika, explaining his clan, the people he comes from, and you see their mangled bodies in the background, again, caught up in the spider's web as well. From a visual standpoint, it's really, really quite impactful. And this right here, this aspect of it, this is something he's clearly been thinking about since that day, right? The motives behind all of this, because I feel like every night he must be thinking, why did they do this? Do they have their reasons? I need to find out. I need to understand, how could someone do something like this? But then, of course, to his surprise, you have someone like Uvo just immediately dismissing it all, right? He doesn't feel nothing. He doesn't even remember them at first. And that concept, that idea, it just feels so foreign to Kropika. To hear that they had no reason, he felt nothing, right? All these years, he must have thought, okay, let me understand. Let me at least kind of get this out of them. How could you do something like this? Give me your reasoning. There's nothing there. It's as simple as they're just another target, from Uvo's perspective at least. But yeah, going back to my initial point about the fallout of this, yeah, I don't think he's just going to walk away from this. I think, it is going to play out in his mind for some time yet, right? I think this is a bit of a haunting experience for him. Again, it's the first time he's killed. I really do feel like it is going to linger in his mind. At least that's my read on the situation. And also to, finish up my point about the cost, the price, the double-edged sword, my immediate concern, upon seeing that, okay, this is incredibly OP against the Phantom Troop. Essentially he has created a style from scratch just for the spiders, just for the Phantom Troop. I mean, it truly is as clutch as it gets against the spiders, the Phantom Troop specifically, right? As of this point, he's the troop hunter, isn't he? He truly is.
And this is something really quite unique as far as the Phantom Troop goes as well. As far as them facing a challenge, because this fighting style, this approach is entirely dedicated to fighting and apprehending these Phantom Troop members. And like Uvo himself also understood, this guy's thought of everything, right? That methodical approach. He's kind of thought of all of these permutations. He's thought of everything. Kurapika, that is. As much as he can, at least. Now, again, that doesn't mean that Kurapika is always going to be in absolute control. No. I do believe that he is going to find himself in a lot of tricky situations as well, especially now that the chief himself, the head of the spider, Chrollo, is taking a lot of interest in Kurapika, right? So, yes, at parts of this episode, during that fight, he appears to be really quite confident. He's like, okay, I've tested it out. I've seen it against the might of the strongest of the spiders, so I'm good. As long as I can ensnare them in my own chain-jail, I've got it. I've got one over them. But yeah, ultimately my concern is that the fact that it feels so OP and the fact that it is so damn effective, there's got to be a cost. There's got to be a price that is just as insane or just as incredible as the abilities that he's using. But yeah, let's shift the focus now to our third specialist, Kurapika, right? Under the right circumstances, unique circumstances, he becomes a specialist. And I say third because I know one is Neon, right? Or Neon. And then, of course, number two is Chrollo, whose silhouette I've seen. And again, I knew about Neon being a specialist before it was actually confirmed. I mean, it wasn't actually even confirmed. But yeah, I think this is actually the first time someone has actually been confirmed to be a specialist. The other two is just kind of based on the silhouettes. So, I mean, yeah, in a sense, it is being confirmed to us, the audience, because, they gave us the silhouettes of Neon and Chrollo, right? So, yeah, this is the third specialist I'm seeing now. But the second one in action, right? Because I don't know Chrollo's specialist abilities just yet. But if you'll remember, back in episode 36 or 37, it's in the middle of Gon and Hisoka's fight at Heaven's Arena. He kind of goes into his Nen test, his Nen personality beliefs or test that he's kind of compiled over the years, through his experiences with lots of Nen users, right? There, the discussion for that, I kind of speculated that essentially Kurapika sounds like a specialist, right? Given on the description that Hisoka is providing at that moment, right? But he also said that, it's not as reliable either. But even so, it still kind of makes a lot of sense and it's still kind of checking out. Right there, he almost immediately understood that, yeah, Gon's an enhancer, so is Wing, that he himself is a transmuter, and then, Killua is a transmuter as well. And, they all claim that, yeah, he nailed it. So at that point, yeah, I felt that, okay, based on his descriptions, yeah, that Kurapika might actually be a specialist. Ultimately, yeah, it does come full circle. At the end of the day, he is able to become a specialist. Right. And, they also set this up a few episodes ago, right? As Kurapika Sensei, who makes another appearance here through a flashback back to that scene, he told him as much, didn't he? Right? That Kurapika has a better chance than most of being a specialist down, later in life, perhaps, because the adjacent categories, right? Conjurer and manipulator, right? These two have the highest chance of becoming specialists later on. And like I said a little bit earlier, he's devoting all of his specialist abilities, and of course his conjurer abilities as well, he's devoting them essentially exclusively to the Phantom Troop, to counter the Phantom Troop, to capture the Phantom Troop, to take down the Phantom Troop. And then of course through this flashback, you get a bit of that exposition, right? You get a bit of that context. You essentially learn about the condition, the title of the episode, and all of these stipulations and self-imposed rules that Kurapika has put on his abilities, right, to essentially fortify them, to get them to a level that can match the Phantom Troop, right? Because again, based on other abilities, he's not there. He's just not there at that level. So he had to tap into this element of it. So essentially, it is pretty clear cut, isn't it? The stricter the rule, the stronger the power it enables. Your strength is going to increase exponentially, right? It's going to skyrocket. And I've seen that on display now. And essentially, this was the only route, the only way he could bridge that gap between himself or, his, capabilities and the Phantom Troop's abilities to kind of level the playing field. or, not even just level it, kind of get one over them. And as far as any strict rules and stipulations and all of that, he's got the ultimate, hasn't he? Right? I'll stake my life on it. That's as intense as it gets. But his sensei does mention something really quite fascinating, right? This idea of losing your nen abilities if you are to break a rule that's been set, right? Now, of course, this isn't quite applicable to Kurapika, because if he is to break his rule, his really strict rule, he forfeits his life altogether, right? So it's a bit beyond just losing his nen. But that is still interesting information, isn't it? Because it's a long anime, and it's not just focusing on Kurapika. It happens to be at the moment, but there's a lot of other nen users, right? I could see a situation down the line at some point, with any of the other potential nen users. There could easily be situations down the line that could have this type of setup, right? Conditions, and then potentially having characters in situations that might make them actually break those rules, right? Not meet those conditions and potentially lose their nen abilities. Kind of like a rock in a hard place type situation, right? I've kind of brought this up about the nature of hunters, the selfish nature of hunters as well, right? And that even Kurapika himself might find himself in a situation that requires him to choose, to pick, right? So I could see something like that playing out at some point. I think so. This is something you kind of have to put a pin in. I am putting a pin in this, potentially, breaking your rules and then having to pay the price, because I feel like it's just beginning to scratch the surface, right? And I don't think Kurapika is going to be the only one that I see in this situation, right? These strict rules, that self-imposed rules that he's kind of applying to his abilities, to enhance his abilities essentially, or fortify his abilities. Essentially at this point, I've got abilities for all of the fingers but the index finger, right? The first one I actually got to see was the ring finger, right? Dousing, I believe. And then of course I saw the middle finger, really quite fitting, the chain jail. Then in this episode, I saw two of them, right? Both of them essentially in that state, in the state of being a specialist, right? The scarlet eyes, the thumb and the pinky, the little finger, right? The thumb was essentially the holy chain, the healing thumb, I believe they called it. And again, it's a cross, right? Quite fitting. And he essentially confirms that it is essentially a bit of an enhancing ability, right? Enhanced self-healing, I believe he called it. And yeah, at a split moment, or in a split moment, he healed an arm that took the full impact of the big impact, that big impact blow, Uvo's big impact. So that's insane. That's insane. Now, the thing is, was he actually using enhancer abilities to, kind of be on the defensive? Because he took that punch full on. But the thing is, even if he did have enhancing abilities at play, Uvo's enhancing abilities are still far greater, so much so that he shattered his arm, right? Completely just mangled his arm. So, that begs the question, the first time round, was that as simple as him just healing himself in the commotion, right, in the smoke screen, and, coming back out and you see that his left arm is fine? Or he was effectively able to, counter that, or, defend against it because he was using enhancing abilities as a defensive tactic at that point. But they also confirmed that Uvo wasn't going all out, right? And you see, that's one of the things that was agitating Kurapika. He wanted him to go all out as soon as possible. I think he said something like, my output's only at 20%. And then of course the pinky finger was the judgment chain that I see in this episode. That leaves the index finger. I'm sure there's something really quite interesting left for that one as well. But there's one thing that they didn't really, make clear at this point. Maybe it's by design. Yes, he becomes a specialist in that state, the scarlet eyes, but does he have control over that? Because that's kind of a big deal, isn't it? It's a bit of a handicap, essentially, if he does not have control over it, right? Up until this point, it's kind of felt like certain things trigger that in him, the scarlet eyes, that is. So yeah, it's not made clear just yet if he has absolute control over that, if he can just tap into it, right? At any time he wants. But even so, I feel like, anytime he is going to come across a Phantom Troop member, yeah, it shouldn't be a problem for him to immediately tap into that state, right? Given his, history with these people, right? And the things that they've done. I mean, just the mention of the Phantom Troop, or the mention of the things that happened to his clan, right? The idea of the Scarlet Eyes being taken. They've shown us on multiple occasions at this point that, yeah, it triggers really quite easily for him. And the thing is, it puts us, the audience, in Uvo's shoes, right? Because it's the same thing. Both of us are essentially a little bit baffled about some of the things that are playing out, because indeed it appears that Kurapika is exhibiting the abilities of an enhancer, right? So as Uvo's kind of puzzled about it, I'm kind of puzzled about it. And as Uvo's kind of pointing this out, I'm also beginning to think, oh, hold on. Holy shit, that's right. Right? So I love that approach. Uvo actually even stated that he appears to have an enhancer's defensive powers, right? And, based on his read on the situation, Uvo actually even questioned if he has fully mastered both enhancer and conjurer techniques, right? And this is just based on his reading of how Kurapika is approaching this battle, this fight, right? So Uvo is the highest authority in that sense, as far as, getting his take on someone who is exhibiting enhancer abilities. Uvo is a master enhancer. But then, of course, Kurapika explains it, right? Emperor time, absolute mastery, right? That's the title of this ability. Now, see, this is an area that's more about speculation, because it's not made 100% clear at this point, at least. So again, a lot of rhetorical questions are about to come at you here, but this is just me kind of thinking out loud. So Kurapika said that anytime he is a specialist, anytime he is in that state, he's essentially given full control of every single Nen category. Full control, right? So see there, there's some room for speculation. So by full control, does he mean that every single category, every single Nen category becomes as if it's his innate category, right? As of that point, before I found out about him being a specialist, his innate category was conjurer, just like Gon's is enhancer, right? But of course, in that state as a specialist, he's a specialist. He's not a conjurer anymore, right? So those rules go out the window. Now he is something special altogether. It's something unique just to him. So one of the unique situations at hand here is that he can potentially master every single Nen category at that point. Or not at that point specifically, if he works at it, essentially, right? I think that's the implication here. I think, because again, Uvo, a master enhancer, is actually questioning if this Nen user has actually mastered both enhancing abilities or techniques and conjurer techniques. That's two right there, right? But ultimately, as set up already in this anime, they've set up that you can only really master at 100% level your own innate Nen category, right? And of course, with Kurapika, that is conjurer. But again, that kind of goes out the window once he becomes a specialist. So is it saying that everything becomes equal? That, everything becomes innate? That he can master every single category, or he can master it up to, that percentage that they've given us. They gave us those percentages, right? But then there's the other angle to this, right? Maybe it only lets him get to that percentage that's been given, right? 100% is allocated, of course, to his conjurer abilities, because again, that's innate to him. But then, there's a bit of a diminishing component to this, right? As far as, kind of tapping into enhancer and then the other abilities as well, right? So does that mean in this state as a specialist, he can kind of max out or reach that potential, but it's still not really considered the same as his innate ability? So him mastering his potential as an enhancer is not going to be the same as a master enhancer that is Uvo. Again, these are speculative questions, rhetorical questions at this point, because they didn't make it crystal clear just yet. And I'm assuming that's because they'll explain it, just like they'll probably explain the cost, right? The price, for using Emperor time at some point in this arc, I suppose. But yeah, as of this point, the only one that I know for sure is exclusive to use just on the Phantom Troop. Of course, otherwise he's going to forfeit his life. It's the chain jail. And, chain jail is just so crucial. It is the key component of going up against the Phantom Troop, against the spiders, to essentially nullify them, right? Then he can kind of go to town on them, forcing a state of Zetsu and also paralyzing them at the same time. So yeah, it's a critical component, critical to his hunt for the Phantom Troop members. And to finish it off, let's kind of go to the beginning of the episode, because my God, that is some opening. I mean, how about that tone setter, right? The Scarlet Moon just takes up the entire frame, right? Right in our faces. It's just ominous. It's really quite, really quite telling in terms of how things are about to play out here, right? For the next 22 minutes. There's that one shot even later on as Uvo's heart gets pierced, right? You see the Scarlet Moon is just this ominous presence right behind him. It's actually one of the most visually striking episodes of not just this anime, but anime altogether. There's some incredible frames, incredible moments, thematically relevant, visuals in this one specifically. I mean, it is just frame after frame of this stuff. I mean, as a whole, the art direction is so impactful. But, right before the fight itself, the calm before the storm, if you will, of course, Uvo is taking his leak and he's expelling the eggs. And yeah, it's just really, really just disgusting to think about, right? For us guys, at least, something of that nature, something of that ilk coming out of you, right? Oh God, just the thought is just, as Uvo stated, it's disgusting, right? Even though he kind of said it in a joking manner. But then they also show us Kurapika right before the fight, right? It's almost as if it's a moment of reflection, right? He's almost kind of having this out-of-body experience. He's contemplating about the things he's about to do, that thing that he might end up doing at the end of this fight, right? And he does end up doing it. And hell, he even had a shovel. He had it, he brought it. He brought it to the damn fight out there in the open, in the middle of nowhere, right? And then I suppose they kind of just got there separately, right? They kind of agreed on the spot. They're like, all right, meet at that spot. And they both kind of just got there. I mean, surely they didn't actually go together. That just the thought of that is really quite comical, isn't it? But yeah, to me, it feels like they just agreed on the spot and then they showed up there, right? Separately. But yeah, Kurapika certainly, he was confident that, he is going to land himself in that situation, that he is going to have to end up digging a grave. But yeah, it's an incredible one and done episode, isn't it? I'm still not over the visuals of this episode. Like I said, just so thematically rich. I've got an embarrassment of riches at this point in terms of potential thumbnails, in terms of the frames I am going to choose for the post-episode portion. But yeah, of course, for the thumbnail, you can't really use any of the potential spoiler moments, right? I'm sure that didn't stop a lot of people, from using a lot of spoilers in their thumbnails. But I'll try my best not to actually tap into any of those moments. But like I said, the thing is, there's an embarrassment of riches. There's some incredible moments that do kind of represent the episode as a whole, perhaps as a thumbnail, right? There has to be relevance to the thumbnail. That's how I kind of look at it. But yeah, that's a phenomenal episode. I enjoyed that quite a bit, and this is essentially going to be the longest discussion yet. I'm pretty sure, from the looks of it. I'm looking at the timer right now. Thoroughly enjoyed that, and if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in full opacity, timer-based full length, or early access to the next few episodes right now, upwards of 4 episodes at this point, consider checking out the Patreon page and potentially supporting the channel. Links in the description and the pinned comment, also links to social media if that's your thing. But again, remember folks, you can support the channel easily just by dropping a comment, dropping a like. All of that helps the channel get noticed. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 48. Until then, take it easy.